Take three, we're back on the air. Welcome to this edition of the Native News Update. I'm your host for today's program, Paul Demain. Many of the stories heard here can be found at our website at indiancountrynews.com. Here are the stories for the day from the Associated Press and other Native American news sources. A Mesa, Arizona woman has been arrested and accused of leaving the body of her newborn infant in a backpack on the Gila River Indian community during March. Tribal police arrested 22-year-old Faith Cotto last week. She faces charges including transport of a dead body. The case also is being reviewed by the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. Cotto is believed to be the mother of the newborn male infant found by a tribal police officer on March 23rd. The FBI is investigating whether the infant was alive or dead when taken to the reservation. A Navajo man is alleging a priest assigned to the Roman Catholic Diocese of Gallup, New Mexico, sexually molested him when he was a teenager in 1980. The lawsuit was filed April 15th in Navajo Nation District Court in Window Rock, Arizona, against Charles Sikanawicz, the diocese, the Franciscan Friars Province of St. John the Baptist, and Franciscan Friars Province of Our Lady of Guadalupe by a man identified only as John Doe C.G. It was a second lawsuit filed against Sikanawicz in Navajo courts. Another Navajo man who claimed Sikanawicz gave him alcohol and sexually abused him as a teenager in the 1980s sued him and the diocese in November of 2007 in Navajo court in Shiprock. John Doe C.G., who lives in Arizona, is seeking unspecified damages, alleging sexual abuse, assault, battery, negligent supervision, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. A spokesman for the Gallup Diocese declined comment, citing the pending litigation. A 31-year-old Popular man has been sentenced to 5 years in prison for firing a shotgun at a Fort Peck, Montana tribal police officer. Stephen Grayhawk was sentenced last week in U.S. District Court for assault on a federal officer and assault with a dangerous weapon. He pled guilty to the charges in January. Prosecutors say a Fort Peck officer was dispatched to a house in Poplar on August 29, 2007. When he arrived, he learned Grayhawk was firing a gun in a nearby alley. The officer drove his patrol car into the alley and saw Grayhawk with a gun. The officer ducked down, put the car in reverse, and started to back out when he heard a gun blast. The officer later found 9 dents from shotgun pellets on his car. A federal grand jury has indicted the ex-wife of a slain Oklahoma soldier for allegedly misappropriating about $400,000 in insurance benefits meant for their child. An indictment unsealed April 15th accused Tricia Dawn Fish of spending most of her son's inheritance within a year. The 30-year-old made an initial court appearance on the embezzlement charges and was released on bond. Army Specialist Jeffrey Henthorn was killed in Iraq in February of 2005. They were married in 1998 and divorced in the year 2000. The indictment says the 25-year-old Henthorn designated his son Chance as the sole beneficiary of his military life insurance policy. Court papers show Fish went to Kickapoo Tribal Court in McLeod, Oklahoma in March of 2005 and sought to be appointed to her son's guardian over financial affairs. A federal judge has tossed the conviction of a filmmaker who was accused of trespassing and doing business inside Yosemite National Park without a permit after he shot film of American Indian ceremonial dances there. U.S. District Judge Oliver Wenger dismissed Lorenzo Baca's conviction, agreeing that Baca may not have gotten a fair trial. Baca, who is Mescalero Apache and Pueblo, had claimed the federal magistrate judge in the 2007 case should have recused himself because he displayed a noose in his chambers. Wenger said Judge William Wunderlich was oblivious to the negative message of injustice and bigotry that the hangman's noose communicated. Wunderlich has said colleagues gave him the noose as a joke more than 20 years ago. Federal court documents say 78-year-old John Shield, a retired pastor from Wisconsin, plans to plead guilty to trafficking in archaeological resources taken from South Dakota public or Indian lands. The top penalty is a year in prison and a $100,000 fine. Federal prosecutors said they would recommend a sentence of probation. He is one of at least 5 men being prosecuted in South Dakota federal courts for archaeological resource crimes. Federal prosecutors indicted them, saying they looted or traded ancient archaeological items such as military items, gun flints, lead balls and bullets, and brass copper pieces. A federal appeals court ruled last week that the Bush administration did not properly study the environmental impact of expanding oil and gas drilling off the Alaska coast and canceled the program to find new reserves. A 3-judge panel in Washington, D.C. found that the Bush-era Interior Department failed to consider the effect on the environmental and marine life before it began the process in August of 2005 to expand an oil and gas leasing program in the Beaufort, Bering, and Chukchi Seas. It wasn't entirely clear whether the decision applies to other areas of the same expanded offshore drilling program, including tracts in the Gulf of Mexico and along the Atlantic coast. Attorneys for the environmentalists and the industry said they think that it would cancel the entire program, not just the Arctic region. The seas off Alaska that were at the center of the suit are home to a lot of wildlife, including polar bears, whales, seals, walruses, and seabirds. The lawsuit was brought by 3 environmental groups that want to protect the ecosystem in the native village of Point Hope, Alaska, a tribe that lives off the wildlife resources in the Chukchi Sea coast. In Maria Gunno's 11-year war over the strip mining that has ruined her homestead, there have been several casualties. Family dogs poisoned and shot, her truck's fuel tank stuffed with sand, the innocence of her children guarded in sleep by volunteers when things heat up. And in what she sees as a grim nod to her American Indian heritage, Gunno herself was threatened one day at a West Virginia post office. Dead woman walking, they called her. Yet she keeps fighting to stop mountaintop removal mining. For confronting the coal industry in Appalachia, she is the 2009 North American winner of the Goldman Environmental Prize. Given to 6 people annually, 1 in each inhabited continent, the Goldman is the largest award of its kind with a $150,000 cash prize. The winners were recognized April 20th in San Francisco, California. Mountaintop removal mining has grown increasingly common in Central Appalachia because it's cost-efficient and effective. Gunno's home sits below a 10-story valley fill and has been flooded with coal waste 7 times since the year 2000. She's one of the bravest activists we've seen putting her life on the line, said Lorraine Rumminger, Deputy Director of the Goldman Environmental Prize. And that is the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. We want to thank our underwriters for helping us with this broadcast and you for joining with us on this program today. Miigwech.